Welcome to Movies in the Making. In today's episode, we are going to be looking at the 1979 epic war film Apocalypse Now, originally released by United Artists and directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Here, we will dive deep into the story of the production of this film. This is widely considered to be one of the best films ever made, alongside The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, both of which Coppola directed before this. As such, this film had that much of an insanely troubled production. So, sit back and enjoy the show. You are all in for a ride of the Valkyries. Apocalypse Now is adapted from Joseph Conrad's 1899 novel The Heart of Darkness. In 1939, a young Orson Welles came to Hollywood with plans to make a film version of Heart of Darkness. Welles wants to stick closely to the book and also planned to star in the film. He had support from RKO Radio Pictures and worked on the project for months, but several issues caused the production to fall apart. The film's huge budget, which reached $1 million, and the need to shoot in remote locations made RKO nervous, so they decided to cancel the project. This led to Welles to focus on a new film, Citizen Kane, which later became one of the greatest films of all time. Plans to adapt the book resurfaced when John Milius, who would be the screenwriter, was inspired by a challenge from his professor, Erwin Blacker, to adapt the source material. This challenge stuck with him for years. Initially, Milius intended for his classmate, George Lucas, to direct the film, but the project ultimately found its way into the hands of Francis Ford Coppola. The three had initially discussed their shared dreams in college, with Milius writing the script based on stories from Vietnam veterans, while Lucas, who met Coppola through a scholarship opportunity, was working on his own project. Eventually, Lucas became distracted by focusing on Star Wars, 20th Century Studios' 1977, leaving Coppola to take over. Coppola's production company, American Zoetrope, had secured a development deal with Warner Bros. After his success with The Rain People, 1969, which allowed him to bring Milius's vision to life. In Apocalypse Now, antagonist Colonel Walter Kurtz is portrayed by Marlon Brando. Brando's method acting approach on the film went far beyond the script, as he transformed into his character by inhabiting his persona rather than focusing on memorizing lines. Coppola envisioned Kurtz as a skinny figure from spending years in the jungle, but Brando arrived overweight and insisted on portraying the character through improvised dialogue, often straying from the script. Despite this, Coppola allowed Brando to rewrite Kurtz's character to fit his own vision, even delaying production to help Brando get into the right headscape. Brando's on-set behavior, including conflicts with co-star Dennis Hopper, mirrored the chaos of the production. One example of a conflict Brando had with Hopper was that he hated being on set with Hopper simultaneously with him. Brando started this off by being in the wrong. He first came several weeks behind schedule, leaving the cast and crew to wait for him. When Brando did arrive, he appeared to be overweight. This added to the problem because his character was meant to be thin. Hopper, unaware that Brando had not read the Heart of Darkness book, teased about him at a dinner, leaving Brando to storm out in a fit of rage. Hopper took the outburst personally and antagonized Brando further. The next day, production halted, and Brando and Coppola went on a 2-week river trip, returning with a new script. Brando agreed to continue working but insisted that he and Hopper film their scenes separately, never sharing the set. The protagonist, Captain Benjamin Willard, is portrayed by Martin Sheen. When Coppola took over Apocalypse Now, he initially wanted actor Steve McQueen to play Captain Willard, but McQueen was unwilling to commit to 17 weeks of filming in the Philippines. He first demanded $3 million for the role and later suggested Clint Eastwood play Willard while he would take on the role of Kurtz, still asking for $3 million. Coppola rejected the offer, stating that such a high fee would set a bad precedent for filmmakers. He had considered other actors, James Caan, Jack Nicholson, and Al Pacino, the latter of which had previously featured in The Godfather, before ultimately casting Harvey Keitel as Willard. However, Keitel left the project due to a contract dispute, and Coppola later admitted that he was miscast. Apocalypse Now began production in the Philippines in early 1976 and ceased filming after 238 days. At one point, Coppola saw one particular shoot that took a week to film. Harvey Keitel was replaced by Martin Sheen for the role of Willard. While Coppola later admitted that this was a difficult decision, he believed it was the right one for the film. Keitel was upset by the misrepresentation of his discomfort with the jungle, having served 3 years in the US Marines. Interestingly, a shot of Keitel walking from a helicopter to a boat remained in the film, though the rest of his scenes were replaced by Sheen. Several months into the long production, Sheen suffered a heart attack. After crawling to the side of the road, he was picked up by a bus and received medical attention, with a priest giving him last rites in a language he did not understand. As news of Sheen's health crisis spread, Coppola had to decide whether to delay filming or use a body double for Sheen, scrambling to use any footage he could. This further extended the shooting schedule and caused the film's budget to increase significantly. Since digital technology was not available at the time, Coppola had to rely on practical methods to create the film's large-scale action sequences. This included building massive sets in the harsh jungle, using real helicopters and military equipment provided by the Filipino government, and organizing hundreds of extras. However, filming these action sequences was often disrupted by Filipino pilots, who would sometimes abandon their planned shots to respond to urgent calls to fight communist insurgents elsewhere in the country. The production of Apocalypse Now was already struggling with numerous challenges, but the situation worsened when natural disasters struck. Just 2 months into filming in the Philippines, Typhoon Olga hit the region, causing widespread devastation. The powerful storm destroyed several key sets, setting the production back significantly. The crew had to stop filming for several months to repair the damage and rebuild what had been lost. This unforeseen disaster added to even more delay to an already behind schedule shoot and pushed the film's budget even higher, making it more difficult to stay within financial limits. The typhoon was not the only weather-related setback. The extreme conditions of filming in the remote jungle were already wearing on the crew, and the loss of time and resources due to the storm made the production process even more severe. These mounting difficulties put immense pressure on Coppola and his team, further complicating their efforts to complete the film. Apocalypse Now was primarily filmed in Luzon, Philippines. Baler Bay was used for the aerial bombing scenes so that the film looked as though it was set in Vietnam. Some of the filming originally happened in Zambales province, but the damage caused by Typhoon Olga led to production delays. It even resulted in some scenes being filmed in Napa Valley, California, USA, when the crew made it back there. This helped them to compensate for the time they lost. It also helped Coppola to research Genghis Khan as a further inspiration for the character Colonel Kurtz in the film. The opening scene of Apocalypse Now, featuring grainy footage of helicopters flying over psychedelic landscapes, was actually salvaged from the cutting room. It began as a joke to play the Doors' song The End over the film's opening. However, the footage was discarded at first, but when the editors revisited it, they saw its potential. When it all came together, the scene turned into a hauntingly beautiful and mesmerizing sequence that ultimately made it into the final stage, perfectly setting the tone for the entire film. The iconic use of Wagner's Rise of the Valkyries in Apocalypse Now plays a significant role in the film's portrayal of war and destruction. The piece, originally from Wagner's 1870 opera Die Walküre, was chosen by Coppola and sound editor Walter Merck to accompany the famous helicopter action sequence. The Ride of the Valkyries became closely linked to the helicopter attack on Charlie's Point in Apocalypse Now, to the point where the filmmakers could not imagine separating the two. The specific 1965 recording of the piece by George Solti and the Vienna Philharmonic was seen as perfect for the scene, though Decca initially denied permission for its use. After much effort and searching through other recordings, sound editor Walter Merck finally secured Solti's personal approval to use his recording, a decision that greatly enhanced the film's emotional impact. The infamous scene where a water buffalo is brutally and ritualistically slaughtered was filmed using a real animal. This was not staged for dramatic effect. If the film had been shot in the United States, the production would have been stalled by animal cruelty laws that would have prevented such an act. However, since the movie was filmed in the Philippines, where there was little oversight or regulation at the time, the filmmakers went ahead with the real slaughter, as no authorities were present to intervene. The controversial choice led the American Humane Association giving the film an unacceptable rating, condemning the scene for its depiction of animal cruelty. As of the 29th of December 2024, Apocalypse Now has 90% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 94 out of 100 rating on Metacritic, an 8.4 rating on IMDb, and a 4.4 rating on Letterboxd. The film's total budget was $31.5 million, and it grossed a total of about $78 million following its release date of the 15th of August 1979. The film received 2 Academy Awards, one for Best Cinematography to Vittorio Storaro, and one for Best Sound to Walter Murch, Mark Berger, Richard Beggs, and Nat Boxer. It also received 6 other nominations, including one for Best Director to Coppola and one for Best Picture. When it was first screened at the 32nd Cannes Film Festival on the 19th of May 1979, the film won the Palme d'Or along with Volker Schlundorff's The Tin Drum, also United Artists. And that wraps up our deep dive into the making of Apocalypse Now. We have journeyed through how Orson Welles tried to adapt the source material first, but then left it, the issues with having Marlon Brando on set, and what Typhoon Olga did to the set of filming. Apocalypse Now was more than just a film, it was a new addition to Francis Ford Coppola's list of highly acclaimed films. This film notably ranked at first place on Channel 4's TV movie 50 Films to See Before You Die, which premiered on the 22nd of July 2006. Furthermore, the production of this film was so troublesome that Francis's wife, Eleanor Coppola, took some behind-the-scenes footage and then decided to narrate over them, leading to the release of the well-received documentary Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse, Triton Pictures, 1991. It's self-directed by Fax Barr and George Hickenlooper. Also, 49 minutes of Apocalypse Now that were originally cut from the first release became included in the extended edition, entitled Apocalypse Now Redux and released by Miramax in 2001. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to stay updated on all things movies in the making. Let us know in the comments what you think of Apocalypse Now, or if you have any favorite moments from the film that we did not touch upon, or what films you would like to hear covered by this channel. Also be sure to check out our community page, where we announce what films will be talked about by this channel each week. New posts arrive every Friday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time on Movies in the Making, where we will be talking about 2001, A Space Odyssey, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, 1968, and more films to follow along the way. Tune in for more Movies in the Making as we uncover the stories behind cinema's most unforgettable films. This has been Jason Scotchmer, film enthusiast and passionate about the arts.